Hey everybody, and welcome back. First of all, happy Thanksgiving. I know a little late, but I still hope that you all had a wonderful and special and amazing holiday and got to eat some really yummy food. Second of all, I want to apologize for my sudden absence. I did have some dormant health issues that decided to reemerge and kind of take off very suddenly and escalate, but all is well. The good Lord has been with me and just threw me out of the video creating game for a little while there. So I want to get back and show you guys exactly what we were working on about two and a half weeks ago before this had all started. Now, we've been having an Indian summer just like we had talked about all year long. It's what was expected. And I'm looking out the window right now at a green lawn. I know that from looking at old home videos of when my son was born, about a month ago we were under a couple feet of snow, but we are still having freezing temperatures. And when we suddenly took that dive into that freezing zone, it was a big rush to get out. I had a few small crops just hanging on out in the vegetable garden that need to be pulled in. And the biggest part was getting the herbs in so that we didn't lose all of that hard work, because it only takes those 1 or 2 freezes and you'll lose everything out there. So we did a bunch of work to run out there. The first clips that I'm going to show is what we did with the beets. And the beets I had talked about in quite a few previous videos. They were planted very late. I really didn't expect to get much out of them. I was keeping an eye on them all year round and it really didn't seem like they were doing much. So stick with us and we're going to travel back and I'll show you exactly what we've been up to. Kind of what I was expecting, so, but no harm done. The beet greens are really good for you, so we can munch on those, right, Forrest? Yeah. Okay, and here we have those 3 onions that I kept telling you about that were hanging on for dear life. So let's see what we got underneath the ground here. Show the resilience of plants. This is a line of carrots that I planted and never tended to. I never thinned them, never did anything with them. My husband didn't know they were there and they were trampled countless numbers of times. And you can still see the amount of little carrots I got there. Little baby carrots, but they're still carrots. Okay guys, so this is what's left of my herbs right now. We've got some lemon balm back here. The Greek oregano spread out really nicely all over here. The pineapple sage is huge up to the windows there, and I apologize that I never got to it. I wanted to show you guys this plant flowering because it's such a beautiful flowering plant. You can see the little bits that are left, some of the red here. Let me walk over here, focus there. There's a little ladybug in there, but you can get the idea here that this entire stalk was like this beautiful red color. That's actually why I bought the sage. When it comes to those, if you want to call it fruit infused herbs, they typically don't get a lot of that fruit taste to it, so don't totally expect that, but the smell is where it's at. If you pull off these leaves, I mean, it smells exactly like the chives we knew had already gone by a while back. There's just that little bit of green there. The chives I just used fresh all year long. The thyme started coming in really well, and a nice little bush there going on. Beautiful little thyme. As you can see, the basil has been completely damaged by the cold here. You see that color it gets when the cold comes around. So this plant is more or less done. I'm not going to worry about doing anything with this basil because I have so many cuttings from this plant that are inside that have already rooted. They're growing, they're turning into nice plants, so then I'll be able to have fresh basil all year long that way. The parsley over here went absolutely nuts. You can see how much that is.
That was actually, if you guys saw the video, I had a 6-pack of parsley that I hadn't planted in time. It was half dead. I broke it up. I put a couple little ones in the ground, and you can see what it turned into, an extremely resilient plant. I know Dan over at Home in the Sticks, I've talked to you guys about him before. Make sure you check him out. I know his got destroyed by swallowtail butterfly caterpillars, and it came back for him. Parsley is a very resilient plant. I like it a lot. I use it a lot in the place of cilantro and things like that. I personally like parsley better than cilantro, so they can kind of be used interchangeably there depending on what flavor you like better. My rosemary came in really well, and I've still got a little bit more time before I have to do that, but if I want that plant to survive, I have got to dig it up and bring it inside. Rosemary is a perennial, but it is only a perennial in certain zones. The zone that we're in, it gets too cold over the winter time. We get too much snow, the ground freezes too heavily, and it will not come back next year. The only way for me to keep it is to dig it up and bring it inside. You can see the typical garden sage back there came in quite nicely. That is a perennial where we live, so that will come back next year and it'll keep spreading itself out more and more and more. So that's awesome. And same thing with the 2 lavender plants. Those started getting a little bit bigger. Those should survive over the winter here, and every year those bushes will get a little bit bigger. And I don't know if you can see where the sun is at this point, that it has totally disappeared. I could see it for a minute ago. It is below the trees. So I am going to start cutting at this point and bringing what I can inside to dry and to root. I'll show you what we've done. Okay guys, so it's out well into the dark last night, especially with the time change here. But as you can see, this is what I've gathered for parsley, and I've got all these sitting in a little bit of water just to keep them perky until I get them dried. And then over here, what you can see is starting to wilt and go over. I have a bunch of oregano. That has to be washed really well before it dries because it is a low-lying plant to the ground. And all this here you can see is where it started to flower, and that's actually already started to dry just overnight, sitting there on the stem, which is great because it's got a head start. I've got these 2 little guys here, and that's all thyme, and that's going to be dried. And then over here I took cuttings of everything. I've got oregano here. I've never done cuttings of oregano before, so we'll see if that works. I have cuttings of the pineapple sage here, which the pineapple sage already flowered, as you saw, so I can't guarantee that that's going to make it. And I did pineapple sage once before. Only one of them made it because it did get attacked by those mealy bugs that I had talked about in a previous video. And frankly, I don't think that I let it root long enough in the water, so we're going to let that root a little bit longer this time. And then same thing, I've never done cuttings of thyme before, so we'll see how that goes. Sorry about the bottle, I just used that for water and everybody over here in the little tiny containers. And then I took a bunch of parsley cuttings. Here, we'll see how those go. And then I actually took some cuttings of the lemon balm too, which I only took a couple of those because if you ever have grown lemon balm, you know how crazy they go. So I figured that if those root, I can easily take more and more cuttings off of the same lemon balm and get them going over winter time. And then outside I still have lavender that needs to be harvested. I have the rosemary that needs to be harvested and dug up to be brought in over winter like I talked about. And I didn't do a final harvest of the lemon balm. Haven't really decided if I'm gonna bother or not. I'll see what I want to do with that, especially because I've got the cuttings here. Now I have to go ahead and work on the process of getting all these guys processed down and dried. Okay, so here we are back in present day. And though the beetroot was not a huge success, the beets still were actually a success in my book because I went ahead and I actually pureed up the beet greens along with some applesauce. It just gives it a nicer consistency and a little bit of a sweeter flavor. And I was able to actually freeze 16 ounces of that, which was awesome for adding to some of my nutritional smoothies and also adding to my son's meals when I was giving him something pureed, like pureed spinach and kale and things like that. Add that in. was really, really good and worked out really well. So that was actually a success in my book. And then for parsley wise, we actually got these 2 jars here of parsley. Those are packed really, really tight. Now they're not crumbled into a fine powder because it was under recommendation to me to wait to crumble it until I was going to use it because I would get more flavor out of it. And that's 2 jars packed really tight. And now I dried these ones in the dehydrator, and I've got to say that that actually really tickled my throat and irritated my respiratory system, so I actually ended up finishing dehydrating it in the basement because the aroma was so strong it was actually getting to me. And I'm actually not allergic to parsley. I eat it all the time, so just a forewarning if you guys are going to dehydrate lots and lots of parsley in your house. I did a small dehydrator. And then down here in this little guy, that is all the oregano that I was able to get, which is awesome. And that's actually crumbled into a nice powder. And I'm really excited about that because I use oregano all the time. And then I'm reusing a baby food jar here. And that is actually the thyme. Oh, and I was going to say the oregano I also did in the dehydrator. And that was a nice smell. And the thyme, I actually let that just go ahead and air dry, sitting out in little clumps, and that worked out really well, and just kind of was able to scrape it off all the stems once it was done. So we have lots of thyme in there, which will be really nice for chicken and things like that. If you check out up here, I have another set, the same exact size in the living room. This is the garden sage from letting that hang dry in bundles, and that leaves a nice aroma in the air and apparently has some really good properties for letting it hang dry in your house. You can always read up on those. So just to show you guys success and a failure, the parsley, I believe that I need a rooting hormone. It did not want to root in the water or the soil. The thyme that you can see back here did not want to root in the water, but it seems to be doing quite well in the soil. The pineapple sage died off, but now seems to be coming back. As you see, it's got one little leaf set off there. So we're going to see what it does. We're going to let it keep trying. This little guy here is the Greek oregano. It was not a success in the water, but it seems to have been a success in the soil, which is awesome. Okay, you guys, that's what we had going on with all those herbs and the last of the veggies. But you guys, if you aren't hearing from us, you can always check out our Facebook page. We've got little blurbs and articles and all kinds of fun stuff going on over there too. But otherwise, thank you all so much for your support. If you like this video, please hit that like button. It is a huge help. Otherwise, definitely think about subscribing. We've always got fun stuff going on and are sharing what we're doing. But thank you guys so much for watching this video. I will see you on the next one. I love you all. God bless, and bye-bye.